Welcome back, gang. In this tutorial, I'll improve a sentence so that the grammatical subjects and verbs match the logical characters and actions. I'll address a few other issues as well. You'll be able to watch my improvements step by step and listen to my thoughts along the way. To be clear, this is not a video of me typing. It's a visualization of what happens in my head. The tutorial is designed to accompany chapters 3 and 4 of Style by Joseph M. Williams and Joseph Bishop. It's similar to another of my tutorials, but different enough that you can learn something new. I suggest you pause the video now and take a moment to imagine how you would improve the sentence to the left of your video. I'll start by breaking the sentence into its parts. First, we have the subject. Then we have the verb phrase. Then we have a series of prepositional phrases that flesh out the idea with some objects. The third prepositional phrase is worth looking at by itself, so I'll place its object on a separate line. Now we'll be able to see the problems more clearly. Right off the bat, I notice two nominalizations. Do you see them? They are decision and expansion. Next, I notice the word made. One of the consequences of using nominalizations is that they usually require additional verbs to help them fit into the grammar of a sentence. What do you do with a decision? You make it. This is an example of what Williams and Bishop call empty verbs, because they don't really add any meaning to the idea. Nobody is literally making anything in this sentence, if by making we mean the act of creating something, like a cake or a sweater. You make those. Another problem I notice is this phrase, with regard to. We often use this as a kind of cheat code for noun phrases. We do that when we think, I have to fit this noun phrase into the sentence, but the grammar is inconvenient. I know. I'll write something like, with regard to X, and X is magically attached to the sentence. The problem is that with regard to doesn't explain how the noun phrase relates to the rest of the ideas in the sentence. So I always treat this phrase skeptically. There might be a good reason for using it, but usually there isn't. The same is true of the phrases with respect to and in terms of. So I'll jot down a verb that corresponds to decision and cross out the original phrase. I'll do the same with expansion. Decide and expand are perfectly good verbs. Since I've deleted expansion, I no longer need with regard to. So I'll cross that out too. It's amazing how much junk you can eliminate just by changing nouns into verbs. The page looks a little messy, so I'll clean it up. I'll delete these other prepositions, at least temporarily. Sometimes stripping a sentence down to the words that contain actual information will help you see the most logical way to improve it. If you weren't sure before, can you put the pieces together now? Because the committee members are still in the subject position, the most sensible verb is decide. So I'll reposition that. I'll add the D to indicate the correct tense. Decide is typically followed by an infinitive verb, to plus something. The only action I still have is expand, so I'll move that to the infinitive position. Expand needs an object. What's being expanded? The program. So I'll position that after expand. All that remains is the future, so I'll introduce it with the preposition in. I'm sure the phrase looks familiar. The committee members decided to expand the program in the future. That sounds okay. It sounds a lot better than the original. But think about this for a moment. Whenever you decide to do something, isn't it understood that the thing that's going to happen will happen in the future? Even if you decide to do something 5 minutes from now, that's still in the future. So that phrase is redundant after decide. We can probably delete it. So we're back to this version. The committee members decided to expand the program. With luck, a voice in your head is telling you we can make one last improvement. If you're thinking about the word members, you're absolutely right. By definition, a committee always has members, so it's really unnecessary to mention them. As always, if you think a word like members communicates some important nuance, you're free to keep it. But make sure you can articulate a reason for doing so. Intuition is great for composing, but when you're making improvements, you'll need more than intuition to do a good job. The committee decided to expand the program. Compare the improved version to the original. It's easy to understand. It gets right to the point. Half of the original words are gone, but no information has been lost. Concision was not my goal, but it's often a happy consequence when our subjects and verbs correspond to the logical characters and actions. Remember that the improvements you make to any individual sentence will not affect your writing very much. What will affect your writing is the accumulation of 100 improvements. You must apply these strategies consistently. That's it. Thanks for watching. Say what you mean.